haven't had a whole lot of these sports comedies, and when they do, they normally do well because a lot of people just love sports comedies.
This is great. This is great. I'm so glad to be speaking with Darin Brooks, the star of the Roaring Game. Darin, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it, man.
No, thanks for having me, man. I'm just excited for this film. We were just talking about that with Jared. I was like, it's been a year, over a year and a half, and now it's finally coming out. I'm like, yes, finally.
Oh man, it's hilarious. It is so
Thanks.
much fun. And it's just, I love a good sports comedy. It's just a lot of fun. And there aren't enough movies about curling. Uh,
I, I think they were saying there was only one movie, and it wasn't really a comedy like this. And I guess that's the thing that we're excited about is that Tom DeNucci, our director and our writer, he wrote the script like 16 years ago, and that's why it's got all the 90s music and themes and wardrobe, like it's got all that stuff, and it's got it has that Kingpin, Blades of Glory, meets the world of curling aspect to it that I think a lot of people are going to love.
yeah, it feels like a throwback. It really
Yeah.
does in a lot of ways. But what excited you to get involved? Why did you want to play Rickey?
Oh man, I mean, they sent me the script, the Verity production company. I mean, the whole family there is just like this well-oiled machine, but they're all just such wonderful people. They sent me the script and they sent me the offer on it, and I read it, and honestly, like 10 pages in, I was like, oh, I could do something fun with this. And then I found out that Chatwin was going to be in it, and Mickey Rourke and Gronkowski was going to have a cameo, and Eddie K. Thomas was going to play my brother from American Pie. Antoine Tanner from One Tree Hill, John Fiore from The Sopranos, and also William Forsythe, who plays our brother, the legendary William Forsythe plays our father, and I was like, I'm in. This is a dream team, and I can't wait to like get in this.
It is pretty wild and killer cast. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
here you are, you're on the screen with William Forsythe and Mickey Rourke. Like, you're right. These are cinema names that we know, they're icons.
Yeah.
What was that like for you, and what did you take away from working with these guys?
I mean, you know, it's so cool to see them do their thing, because I have some friends who've done some movies with William Forsythe before, and they were like, "Oh, he's lovely, he's the best," blah blah blah, and I mean, I've seen him in everything. I mean, Raising Arizona, and American Me, and Devil's Rejects, and everything he's been in. I mean, he's been in like hundreds of movies. And then Mickey Rourke too. I mean, just working opposite him. I remember that day that we were shooting. We only shot like a couple of days together. I remember sitting across the table from him, and I was thinking to myself, pinching myself, going, I'm sitting across from an Oscar nominated actor. Like, what the heck? And it was pretty crazy, surreal in a sense, just like, I don't know, it's cool. Like, some of those dreams do come true sometimes. You've seen these people's work growing up, and then you're like, cool, I get to play with this person. Like, yeah, I mean, what could go wrong?
I think you said the word there that hits with this movie, and that's play. Like, it feels
Mm.
like everybody is playing here, and it's just sort of this. Like, I can only imagine what the vibe was like on site because there's just everybody just seems to be like fully invested and having a great time.
We didn't have one bad day on set. Like seriously, everybody since day one, we were joking and we were laughing and we were playing with each other. Like you said, people would come up with some things. Eddie K. Thomas came up with some of those ad libs for some of those speeches, like the speech on the couch where he's like, all the reasons of why she's dating somebody else or looking for somebody else. There was probably like five in the script. And then he was like, I think I'm going to add to this. He came up to me and he was like, how does this sound? I think I'm going to add all these in there. And he was like, well hung, blah, blah, blah. And he comes up with 20 different things. I'm like, that's brilliant. and you have to do it. And he just rambles on, 20 or 30 of these things. I mean, he had some wonderful ad libs in there. And Justin Chatwin's character is just phenomenal with the teeth, and he's got the hockey vibe, eh? He's doing his thing. And he was like, I have to do the teeth. Is the teeth too much? Is the accent too much? I was like, no, this is amazing. Dude, this character's gonna kill. Uh and so yeah, everybody just kind of came to play, and literally we had the best time, and we laughed the whole time. And it was just great.
Speaking of play,
Mm.
how is your curling?
You know what? I'm not a pro, but it was my first time playing ever, and we learned from some of the guys at a curling club that was just across state line over in it was in Massachusetts, I think, and I think it was called Brookstone. I forget the name, but the boys and girls over there, man, we sat down with a bunch of them. The whole cast and crew went, and we took a day of like learning and training before we got on the ice. And some of the nicest people, they love what they do, they love teaching curling to people, and we just had a blast. And I'd never played before, like I said, but it's like bowling or shuffleboard on ice, and it's so much fun. If I had a curling team or like a place around here in LA, like I got to look it up, but I would go and I would play. I'm not great, but like I can, I got a lot to learn, but I would definitely do it like as something fun to do, on the weekends or something.
I was saying to Justin, I said, curling is such a massive thing, and yet I
Right.
think I've done it once in my life. Like people just sort of assume Canadians do it. I'm like, never, nobody's ever said, let's go curling.
Right, exactly. Hey, you want to go curl, bro? Let's go. Let's go. It's
Grab the
but it's
rock. Let's
but
go.
yeah, grab the stone, man. Let's go.
That's it.
What's funny is that like, and I always say this too, like whenever the Winter Olympics are on, which they're coming up and they're going to have the curling, I would sit like they play it during the day sometimes. And if I'm home during the day and I see it, I'm like, oh, curling. I'll check that out for 5 minutes. And then I end up watching it for an hour, and I'm like, you get hooked. Like you somehow get kind of like hooked into this, like I said, this bowling game on ice that like, we're here to make it mainstream, Steve. We're here to make it a mainstream sport. I want it to be in front of a crowd of 100,000, some of the biggest stadiums in the world.
There it is.
We'll
That's the
see.
dream.
Yeah.
I love Rickey. He's just
Mm,
so funny, and you play him with such charm. I think he's great.
thanks.
Um, there's a comment near the end of the film that says everybody's got to grow up someday. And I was wondering in your mind, what do you think Rickey needs to grow up? Or does he?
I mean, that was it. I think that line also sums up the whole movie, to me. This is that, he's that lovable loser. He's the, charming guy who's down in his luck. He got injured. He was a hockey guy, and then he got injured, and then his whole career kind of blew up. And he's been down on himself ever since. His dad was in prison for most of his life. Had to deal with Eddie K. Thomas's character as a brother. But no, it's what it is. It's what it is. He was a boy kind of grown up to be a man. That's what this kind of film meant to me, and that was kind of the arc of the character that I wanted to go with it. That he's this charming child, and he's got to grow up, and he's got to find something to do with his life now and give it meaning and try and win the girl back. But ultimately, it becomes better for him because that's what kind of forces him to grow up. You know. So what does Rickey need? I think, by the end of the film, we see that he's changed in a way where it's like, you know, he's got a purpose now. He's on track. He's got something that's gonna give him some drive and some stuff to like, you know, fight for.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mentioned this to Justin as well, that I love a good underdog story.
Yeah.
This fits right in that vein of like Dodgeball and these classic like
Yeah.
underdog comedies. But what in your mind is it about the underdog? Why do we love the underdog?
I mean, I think that's just like that's a psychological thing for all of us. You know what I mean? We all have our insecurities. Well, we all have our things deep down that we don't feel good about. And then when you see somebody else accomplishing something that you wish you could, or overcoming something or fighting back against the oppression or the bad guy, the Russian team, with Brett. Oh my God, Brett was great. You root for that, and that's kind of like the age old story, right? We always want to see the underdog win. I mean, if the champion's always winning, you're kind of like, okay, it's getting boring, you know what I mean? But if some underdog with some good story behind it and something like some drive, and you like everybody can relate to that, man or woman, I think anybody can relate to like attaining that goal that like you've always wanted to like surpass. And I think that's kind of what it is, you know what I mean, for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I love his relationship with his girlfriend in this film. It's
Yeah.
a lot of fun. Um,
Yeah,
and
with Fievel Stewart, she's the best. Super
so
sweet.
good. So
Yeah.
good. Yeah, the two of you are great. I
Oh.
honestly, but it's interesting because, we've seen lies in films before, but there's really a theme here. Like it just keeps
Mhm.
coming back to whether or not Ricky's willing to be honest with her. And I was wondering in your mind for characters like Ricky, but in general, what is why do lies affect a relationship so negatively? What is it that they do to eat away at it?
Um, it's the insecurity.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because he thinks of himself as such a loser. You know what I mean? But he knows that. And he avoids it at all costs, right? That's why he becomes a janitor, and that's why he lies about being a hitman. He knows how much of a loser it sounds when he says, "Well, I'm a janitor. Would you like to go out on a date?" It's not going to happen. You know what I mean? He's of course he's going to lie. Of course he's embarrassed about his past. Of course he's embarrassed about his dad being in prison, and like those are the things that like when you're like probably when he first met her character, the Kelly character, he had to start off because he was like, shoot, this girl's unattainable. So if I say that, you know what I mean? I could say I used to play hockey and all that, and I got injured. I could tell her those things, but I can't tell her I'm a janitor. And then that one lie turns into two, into three, into 1,000. And that's kind of how he is until, the truth always comes out. So,
Yeah, and his character kind of has to fight through that part
mhm.
himself in this film.
Yeah.
Without giving anything away, he's got to make some pretty big decisions uh,
Yes.
about
About his boss.
about his
Yeah.
boss, if you will. Is it the Plow King? Is that what it is? The
Oh,
Plow.
yeah, the Plow King. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the mob boss too. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of themes, a lot of people that Ricky's got to kind of fight back against.
Yeah, for sure. And with Justin, the two of you guys are
Oh,
just having a great time. You can see that on screen. What were those? What was like? What does it he bring to the set to work with him in creating these characters?
Justin's a pro, man. I had never worked with him before, but we have some mutual friends, and they were like, "Oh, Justin's the best. You're gonna love working with him." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And I used to watch him on Shameless. I used to watch him in like all the things he's done before, and so it was kind of a dream come true working with him too, because he's just such a nice guy, and he's real, and he's down, and he wants to play, and like I said, the character he came up with was so great, and we would just try some things, and uh some of those scenes where we're kind of fighting with each other. He would do those faces and some of those facial remarks where he's like, kind of getting mean mugging in my face after, I meet with Kelly and Kelly asks me for the key back. And, he would do a lot of those. We would just had a great time, man. Honestly, like we would do things to make each other laugh. And then if it made us laugh and it made us break, like we knew that it was going to be comedy gold. You know what I mean? So he's the best, man. I mean, like he's my brother, man. I love that guy.
Yeah, honestly, there's a lot of great energy there between the two.
Yeah.
So much fun. Uh,
Yeah.
and like I said, the film is a blast. Like, what is it that you hope people take away from the Roaring Game?
I just hope people have fun, man. Like you said, we haven't had a whole lot of these sports comedies, and when they do, they normally do well because a lot of people just love sports comedies. They love like the seriousness of sports sometimes, and then you bring the levity of the comedy, and then it's like it's a bonding thing and it's a growth thing. It's a boy growing into a man. It's about team. It's about I love those speeches with the boys at the end. With um with John Fiore, Uncle Jerry giving his speech about how, like, he's like, listen, kid, I never, I didn't have a whole lot, and then you gave me something to live for. Like, you gave me something to drive for. So thank you. Like, those speeches in the end, that made my heart go, when we were filming that stuff. I was just like, those moments I think people can relate to. So I hope the film goes out there. I hope we bring a whole new sense to the sport of curling, as much as people probably don't think of it as a sport. It is a sport. It's an
It is.
Olympic sport. And I just hope people have fun. I hope people tell their friends about it. I just want everybody to see it because it is really a feel good comedy. And at the end, it leaves you kind of feeling, you know, gives you all the feels in the end. You hope for the best, and you see, you know, you see the underdog taking on the big dog. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I should say I think what Uncle Jerry, is that his name again?
Yeah.
Maybe the only shuffleboard hustler I've ever seen in a film. So
I loved that
that
scene so much. It was so great. When they were shooting that scene, and then we ended up we had a whole bunch of other stuff that we kind of cut. Some of the stuff around that scene where we show up and we're watching him hustle for a while, and we're like, you know, uh, I forgot what it was. It was one line that I think we cut out of it, but I think Eddie, the brother says, I thought he was dead. I'm like, nope, that's Uncle Jerry. And he's hustling all the people on the shuffleboard course. And then we see that it's starting to get rowdy, and we run off, and he starts taking off, and we're in the car. It's like, jump in. Like, we had this whole thing going. The scene's great as it is right now, but I remember filming a bunch of other stuff. But that scene, I read that and I was laughing my butt off because I pictured John doing it, and he did it to a T. It was perfect.
he really did. He really did. It's
Yeah.
great. And
Yeah.
honestly, I love Rickey, and I'm so glad we got the chance to chat with you. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah. No,
The
thanks, man.
Roaring
I
Game is a
appreciate it.
blast. It is so much fun.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, man. This honestly, this is great, man. I love this film, and I hope everybody sees it.
Me too. Me too. Darin Brooks, the star of Roaring Game. Thanks so much, man. We'll talk again, and have a great day.
Definitely, man. You too. Thanks.
Thanks. Okay.